Hello, Year 12 Global. Today's class is going to be focusing on transnational corporations. So to talk you through the key knowledge, transnational corporations, we need to know about their aims, their roles, and their power. And then with the aims, we need to be able to explain them, and we need to also assess the extent to which a transnational corporation has been able to achieve those aims. We need to be able to explain their roles. We need to be able to evaluate their power. So, in comparison, I guess, to states, how much power do they have? And also, where have they lacked power? And we will also need to be able to evaluate the extent to which they have been able to challenge the ability of a state to control their sovereignty and, control what's happening within their borders. So that's our final skill there as well. What we've also seen with transnational corporations in the exam is that they have referred to the blurb a few times when using questions from the exam. So students have become stumped because they haven't expected it. So I am going to talk you through the blurb because it is quite important. It says here that students need to be able to consider the aims, roles, and power of one transnational corporation within global politics and the global economy. These actors, facilitated by advances in technology and communication. So this was once a question, how has a transnational corporation benefited from, how have they benefited from technology and communication? That's one the question, and have expanded their role and activities significantly, leading to the suggestion that TNCs can be more powerful than states. So, that even in itself could be a question, discuss the extent to which this TNC has become more powerful than the state. TNCs are also considered by some people to be predators, exploitive of their host states, and by others as drivers of progress, skills, and innovation. So there's two sides really to TNCs. Some people do see them as predators, that they do exploit the state that they are in. And for Volkswagen, they have exploited Germany. However, we really need to remember that states invite these corporations in. They want their investment. They want them because it helps their economic prosperity. So TNCs aren't all bad. They are drivers of progress, innovation, and skills. So we need to be able to see that, yes, they can be bad and they can do the wrong thing. However, they have also helped states grow. And without transnational corporations, states wouldn't have the same economic growth as what they could. So our transnational corporation that we looked at was Volkswagen. So we are going to be linking the aims, the roles, and the power specifically to Volkswagen. Every student across the state will be studying a different transnational corporation, and that's fine. They may have, different aims to you, and that's also fine. But you need to be able to link it back to our transnational corporation and answer the question, how is that an aim? How is that a role? Evaluate, how has that been a good use of power, or how has that been effective in Volkswagen having enough power, and so on. So let's start with the aims. The aim of any transnational corporation is to maximize their profit. Because they will then make a profit, that means then that people will want to invest in their company. So, with Volkswagen, they had a profit in 2019 that grew almost 22% from the previous year. So, it's their job to continue to make a profit so that people will want to invest in their company. In order to also make a profit, they need to also maximize their sales. So they need to make as much sale revenue as possible and minimize their expenses. So if there's ever a time when a corporation, is starting to lose sales, they will have to make a cut somewhere. So during COVID, they would have cut jobs. I'm not going to say that for certain, but I think you probably could look that up for yourselves. Because if they did, well, that's how they, continue to make a profit, by making cuts where they can. Another job of a transnational corporation is to build the brand. So build the brand recognition. People understand the nature of the brand, and they want to build a positive brand. So for Volkswagen, they would want to be seen as a good company. And in 2017, they were recognised as the most innovative brand. So that's something good. That's something that they want to be recognised for. So the aim of Volkswagen is to maximise a profit and to build a brand. So in order to maximise their profit, they need to do a few things. Like, well, we're going to skip to trade. Trade is how they will make money. And in 2020, Volkswagen traded 9.3 million vehicles. So that then increases their profit and also allows them to just continue to grow. Volkswagen also, in order to make a profit, need to actually employ people. And this is how they can contribute to a state's GDP and contribute to their economic growth. And also just, help a state progress is through hiring people. So in 2019, in their annual report, it was noted that they hired 670,000 people globally, and 45% of them were in Germany. However, they did say that there would be a reduction in staff between 2019 and 2023. So, that shows there that in order to maximise their profit, they've had to make cuts somewhere. But in terms of progress, they do that through employing people. Also, to help them make profits, they will invest their money overseas, and this is known as foreign direct investment. So TNCs will make an investment into business interests in other states. Foreign direct investment gives the state more revenue, and it allows them to maybe have more power over states that would like their investment. Volkswagen in 2014 invested $140 million in Indonesia to start up production facilities. So Indonesia is obviously not a rich country, they are a developing country. So investing in this country has given Volkswagen more power over them. They need their investment, otherwise they won't grow. So these are the roles of Volkswagen. Now, we need to now examine the power of Volkswagen. They have quite strong economic and political power, and part of their political power comes from the fact that they have members or ex-members of government involved in their business. So it's in Volkswagen's best interests to ensure that the government laws are favourable to them. So in order for them to continue to make a profit and for things to work in their way, they need to make sure that the government is making laws that suit them. So this has been seen with their ties to Lower Saxony. So the German state of Lower Saxony owns 20% of Volkswagen shares. That's quite a considerable amount, and considering that it's a state that owns a portion of the brand, it would be like if Victoria owned 20% of Holden. So that the state owns part of a car company. So there's obviously an interest there for Lower Saxony, but also for Volkswagen. The Prime Minister of Lower Saxony, Stephen Will, is also an ex officio member of Volkswagen's supervisory board. So this means that they are linked to each other. Volkswagen's interests and the state of Lower Saxony are combined. They have common interests and common goals. It's in Volkswagen's interest to have laws that suit them. It's also in the interest of Lower Saxony to also have laws that suit them. So, they become intertwined. So, as I've said here, as the state is directly linked to Volkswagen, the interests of the entities are intertwined as Volkswagen's interests become the state's interests. So this means, in terms of power, they both are wielding power over each other. But Volkswagen now has access to some of Germany's most powerful figures because they do have connections to this state. So that can help them generate more power and influence. In terms of their economic power, they have been quite powerful given how much profit they've made. In 2019, they made 19.3 billion euros in profit. And, obviously worldwide they employed over 667,000 people. Given how many people they employ in Germany, it contributes to, and the fact that there's economic interest there, they are contributing just 2.7% of Germany's GDP. So that means that it's in Germany's interests for them to do well. And, Germany need Volkswagen to continue to make a profit for them to continue to grow. So Volkswagen then have immense soft power over German politics and the state's national interests. For Germany, Volkswagen is too big to fail. We're going to leave it there for the economic power, but I guess also with Volkswagen investing in countries like Indonesia, and they've also done that in Argentina, it has benefited the state, but also has resulted in them having power over smaller states. In terms of, though, how Volkswagen are a driver of progress, so this is when they help the state grow and how they help the country grow. So for Germany, they have helped, and this has actually helped Volkswagen achieve and maximize profit. So Volkswagen use its employment to increase sales. In 2017, Volkswagen employed up to 294,000 people in Germany alone. They provide a stable middle-class income to its employees. Volkswagen is therefore able to reduce the burden of people on welfare, so that helps the German economy grow. And they've also helped the German economy continue to progress because they contribute to Germany's GDP. Obviously, they had a large amount of profit, 19 billion euros, meaning that this has contributed to Germany's tax revenue. So that also has allowed them to grow. So ultimately, due to the actions of Volkswagen, Germany has been able to achieve their aim of promoting economic stability and prosperity. As their aims align, Volkswagen through employment can be a driver of progress and innovation. So without Volkswagen's investment in Germany, there would be 290,000 people without work, and that would also mean that would not allow the German economy to grow. So Volkswagen have helped the German economy grow through employing people, and then also their profits are contributing to Germany's GDP. They've also helped other states, not just their host state. And this has been seen through Argentina. We obviously looked at Argentina with the IMF, and Argentina didn't have a lot of foreign direct investment because of a lot of companies bailed on Argentina because of their economic problems. But in 2017, Volkswagen announced they would be investing $650 million in Argentinian production So that shows that they were starting to invest. And these programs hoped to create 2,500 jobs in Argentina alone. By providing jobs to citizens, giving them wage and job security, Volkswagen is taking a role in improving their living standards of the Argentinian citizens. So Volkswagen and Argentina are working together. So states do want Volkswagen in their state. They want these transnational corporations in there because they can help them grow. With Volkswagen, they have helped the German economy by, employing people and contributing their profits to their GDP. And for Argentina, it's allowed an investment in their state. $650 million was invested and people were employed. So it has worked out for both parties. So yeah, it has allowed citizens to, to not rely on welfare, to actually have jobs. Due to their investments, President Macri sees Volkswagen as a driver of the national economy, with Volkswagen seeing Argentina as a high growth and profitable market. This displays Volkswagen's political power in the way that it can make partnerships with states and heads of state effectively and desirably for cooperation. So they can both work together to achieve common goals and interests. So we've seen Volkswagen here be good for two states. Two states have wanted them. Germany and Argentina opened their arms up and welcomed them in. So, it's good. They are good for some states. However, we do need to still look at the negatives of a transnational corporation. And unfortunately, Volkswagen is not without a problem. They have been perceived as being a predator, and this was because of their emissions scandal. So, as we've spoken about, one of their aims is to maximize profit. And in 2015, they were accused of basically faking their emissions when their cars were being tested. So what happened here was that they obviously contributed quite a lot to Germany's GDP. And in 2015, they recorded a loss. So a $3.5 billion loss. They weren't making as much profit. And this resulted in a recession in the German economy. So because of the economic contributions that Volkswagen had, it resulted in a decline in the German economy. Also, Volkswagen need to continue to make a profit. They don't want their shareholders to withdraw. So in order to continue to make a profit and to kind of counter this $3.5 billion loss, they had to cut German jobs. So 23,000 German jobs were lost. This sudden job and financial loss prevented Germany from promoting economic stability. It created a burden on the welfare system. They were now also in a recession. And yeah, so it actually didn't turn very good for Germany here. So because Volkswagen want to make a profit and Germany need to protect their citizens, it didn't end up working out very well here. Clearly Volkswagen were prioritizing their profits and didn't think about the state, didn't think about what it would do to the German economy, because that's not their interest. Their interest is in making a profit. So this is an example of how they've been a predator. Further on to this, they have, because of their strong political influence in Germany, this looked very bad for Germany. During that time, Angela Merkel didn't outlaw the software that allowed Volkswagen to cheat the emissions test, even though it was banned in the EU Parliament. So I guess it's implied here that Angela Merkel didn't want to upset Volkswagen, didn't want them to leave Germany. So this shows that instead of actually voting with the EU, she decided to then follow what was in the interests of Volkswagen, showing then that Volkswagen does have some sort of political power over Germany. And because of the economic contributions that they make, they did influence her decision here. She didn't choose to vote with the EU. She voted in what was in the interest of the state to prevent Volkswagen from, further hurting her economy. Further on here, so one aim of Volkswagen is to increase profits through reducing expenditure. So you can probably just read this yourself. I feel like I don't want to keep reading all these things, but I think that this is just a really good example here of how there's political power here, that they need to continue, in order for Angela Merkel to continue working with Volkswagen, she needs to vote and make laws in their interests. In terms of Volkswagen with communication and technology, let's start with communication. So the internet. Volkswagen use social media to build its brand. They use Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to promote their roles, and to also build a positive impact. They have 2.6 million followers on Instagram. So that means that people every day can watch videos and can maybe even engage on social media with what's happening with Volkswagen. They can advertise with people, and that helps build a positive brand. One thing that they also have done, so since November 2017, Volkswagen have announced a spending plan to develop new technologies. They have also agreed to the Paris Climate Agreement and have signed on to net zero. So that's also, something that they are putting out there as well. It's probably also fitting with progress. But here with technology, they are trying to build technology that is sustainable for the future, like using electric cars. So this is building there by saying that you're going to build electric cars that you're working towards net zero. You're building a brand that is environmentally conscious, and therefore, building that positive brand that Volkswagen want to be seen as. So I've got two things here with communication, that on the internet, they are advertising themselves. They're building a positive brand on social media. And then up here with their electric cars, they also are being seen as a positive, environmentally friendly brand that, is moving forward because they are going to develop electric cars. All right, so in terms of past exam questions, in last year's exam, they did ask how technology and communication have expanded the power of one transnational corporation. Sorry, this is actually the 2019 exam. Last year, they didn't have a question on transnational corporations. So this isn't actually, in our key skills. This was from the blurb. So some students didn't actually have any notes on technology and communication. So, oops, they didn't have notes and didn't have actually maybe any ideas really how to actually answer this. So it says here, a number of students had difficulty to answer this question, which used an excerpt from the study design. It seems that students were keen to write about economic power of transnational corporations, but were unable to directly engage with how it advances both power and communication. Had expanded the power of a TNC. To access full marks, students needed to identify specific advances in both technology and communication that has expanded the power of the TNC. Simply stating that they did without the provision of specific evidence significantly limited the response. So yes, you could say that yes, Volkswagen, use social media to, expand their power and they communicate with their followers. That's great, but you need to have actually some specific evidence. So here this student has responded with Glencore. So advances in technology and communication have allowed the TNC Glencore to expand its mining business internationally with increased productivity due to advancements in machinery, leading to increased profits and communication, facilitating the creation of subsidies in other states such as Zambia. As a result of these advances, which have been facilitated by globalization, Glencore's economic power has increased greatly, and thus it is able to use its power to influence the policies and actions of states to suit its own interests, usually through the threat of withholding or withdrawing investments. This occurred in Zambia when in 2015, the Zambian government attempted to raise mining royalties by 4 to 20% in an attempt to make up for the budget shortfall caused by tax evasion by mining companies such as Mopani. In response to this proposed cut of all investment and the threatened to shut down its mining operations, in response to this proposed tax increase, Mopani cut off all investments and threatened to shut down all of its mining operations. As the economy of Zambia is dependent on the mining industry and investment by mining companies, by 2015 the royalty increase was capped at 9%. This shows the great economic power which is facilitated by globalization and the advancements of communication and technology that have allowed them to challenge even state sovereignty. So here they're saying really that because of the state's lack of power, Zambia doesn't have as much, they're a developing country and they rely on Glencore for, gains. By increasing, they say, they're going to increase their royalties, which then would have resulted in, Glencore leaving. They would have withdrawn or withheld their investment. So, it did result in them deciding they would actually change their royalty increase, and therefore, because of globalization, Glencore have been able to have significant communications and technology, and that has allowed them to then challenge what the state does. I think our TNC Volkswagen actually has more clearer links to technology and communication, and I think there's probably an easier way to go about this, but that was obviously one student's response here. What I'd also like to show you up here is that most students do score around here in a 3 to 4, and there's very few that really are getting 5s and 6s. The average, you'll see in a lot of these responses that the average really is, 3 out of 6. So you need to be doing more and actually answering the question and using specific evidence to be scoring higher here. All right. I think there's one more question, and that is analyse the way in which one transnational corporation has challenged state sovereignty. So here you needed to identify one transnational corporation, understand state sovereignty, and analyse how the TNC can impact state sovereignty. Several students were not awarded full marks for the question, as while they explained aspects of power of the TNC, they didn't make clear connections between how the power of the TNC affected the sovereignty of a state. So you've got to be able to draw those links. How does, Volkswagen impact how Germany or how Argentina make decisions in relation to their state? So, the TNC Samsung has challenged both political and economic sovereignty of South Korea. The state's sovereignty was undermined by a political scandal involving the former chairman of Samsung, who was found guilty of bribery, perjury, and embezzlement in 2017, receiving 5 years imprisonment. Furthermore, the South Korean President Lee was impeached for her role in the scandal, highlighting the extent to which South Korea's political integrity and authority was undermined by the TNC. In addition, Samsung possesses great economic power over South Korea, which was also challenged the state's sovereignty. Samsung contributed 20% of South Korea's GDP, and therefore, when Samsung suffered financially in 2016, it impacted upon the state economy. Samsung was also forced to recall 2.5 million devices, losing $27 million in profit. A South Korean editorial asserted that when Samsung falters, the South Korean economy suffers, demonstrating how the TNC challenged South Korea's economic sovereignty. I think that's such a great quote there that, kind of like, this was not a quote that I've actually seen, but I have referenced in our PowerPoint, that when that Volkswagen is too big to fail, Germany relies on it too much. And and we can see that when Germany when there was the emission scandal and, there's an economic loss for Volkswagen, it resulted in a German recession, clearly showing that the economic power of Volkswagen has impacted the sovereignty of Germany. All right, that's all for our knowledge on Volkswagen. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I will see you later. Bye.